The government opened up what's called a public corporation of your name in all capital letters when you were born. The social security number is actually just an EIN number for that corporation. Now, you are not that person. Everyone's freaking out. They get a letter. But the thing is that you have limited liability in commerce. You're just the attorney on behalf of that person.
So what happens when people go to jail?
They go to jail because they identify as that person. Is it you? Yeah, it's me. What's a jail? A jail's an escrow.
I've had a few great Unlearn episodes. This is going to be the fucking mother of all of them.
These are not money. These are negotiable instruments. In 1933, it took away all the gold and silver, and they made it impossible for us to actually pay anything with money. The government, in exchange for taking away all the gold and silver coins, gave us infinite credit. So when you send in a promissory note to pay off a mortgage, they're going to say, we don't accept that kind of payment, which is literally the most illegal and insane thing. UCC 3-603 subsection B states, whatever amount that I attempted to give you in order to perform in that contract discharges off of the debt.
I've got 10 grand down.
Well, down payments are illegal, but yeah.
Of course they are. Everything is illegal.
I got an 840 credit score, right?
Well, you don't need credit score either, but yeah. Why do you think I'm so happy? If you endorse a bill of exchange from the Internal Revenue Service, send it back. They will process that as a payment.
People deserve to know the truth. I had spent probably 20 or 30 grand in my own research, thousands and thousands of hours into all the research, but give it away for free because I just couldn't charge for it. Everyone needed this information. They need it fucking now.
So I've got Brandon Joe Williams here and an old friend, Luke Story, who's been on the podcast a few times. And I was talking to Luke before Brandon got here, and I'm like, bro, I've had a few great Unlearn episodes that have really kind of encapsulated what I'm about and what I'm trying to unlearn, but this is going to be the fucking mother of all of them. It's like the more I learn, it's the less I know. It got super confusing. Brandon, you saw what I posted on Instagram. I'm like, I fucking felt like John Nash in The Beautiful Mind, except without a beautiful mind. Like it was the fucking whole whiteboard. Like, where do I even fucking begin? So let's begin with number one. I love your website, one stupid fuck. And I love the inspiration for that.
God, yes. Yeah, it's I knew, I knew things were going to get hairy. I knew things were going to get crazy, and I knew people were going to get pissed. And I was like, how do I not get deplatformed, not get canceled, not get fact checked, and not start World War 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8? Like, how do I, so I wanted to create a brand. Plus I was really bored as a marketing guy. So I was like working.
And you love working on the fringes of that, don't you?
Yeah, it's just like, well, after 10 years of doing it and making money, like the last thing I wanted to do was the law guy, or like, I was just like, I'd rather just lay down on train tracks, honestly. So for me, I was like, I had onestupidfuck.com for like a year, and I just didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then this came up and I was like, bingo, you know what I mean? So, this was already in the back of my head. Like, I'm making a self-deprecating brand. I just don't know what it's going to be yet. And then I did not expect it to be this, but here we are.
Well, and as I've heard you say in the past, it brings levity to an entire, energetic that is so frustrating, and people get fucking pissed.
Oh, dude.
And super emotional, and how the fucking this happened, and this and that. And your writing is so fucking funny. It's like, I can't believe it's real. I just kept reading through your website.
Email blast a couple of days ago, and it's the first line is like, okay, you stupid fuck loser, like, get ready. You're not ready for this. You don't have the balls for this. Something to that effect. And I was like, you got me. I'm reading the rest of the email. I don't get emails like that often.
No, it was, I was laughing at it too. Hold on, let me read this because it's goofy. It's hi, you bitch ass piece of shit.
There you go.
Right? It's sad though. It's a little bit sad because some people think I'm being serious. And I get some hate mail and stuff. But dude, I just publish it. I'll just screenshot it and be like, yo, hate mail. Like, I just love it. It's just too good. You know what I mean?
So what would you describe the work you're doing right now? And I love in particular the website Williams and Williams Law Firm. And I literally go on about to find out, well, who's the other Williams? And when I fucking go through, it's like, of course, this is what I'm about to learn. Like, holy shit, fuck. This is like every turn is unlearning.
It's just like fun and like, but I'm like taking all the stuff that everyone thinks is like the Matrix and the prison.
Yes.
And I'm converting it into like, how does it benefit me and how is it hilarious and fun?
Well, you're killing it.
Thank you.
Because you got my attention and you certainly got Luke's attention. And some may be wondering, why is Luke on the podcast today? Well, I'll tell you, for fucking 2 months, he's been telling me about all this stuff. And it was like, there were some Monday nights when we'd hang out where I'd have to walk away because it was too much. I fucking couldn't process it. And I would just have to leave him with like Greg or somebody else to ask him all the questions because it was like, it was intense.
I think the one that got Cal, and I, I definitely want you to give the 30,000 foot view and explain it to the audience and us like 5-year-olds. But what got Cal is I was like, when you signed your mortgage application, the second you sign that with a blank endorsement, the bank just got paid and now you're paying them twice plus interest. And he was like, I have a few mortgages. What are you talking about?
Have you ever gone into that, or have you ever, it's called negotiable instruments. Have you ever gone into that whole?
No, I've just no. I mean, I've listened to a few of your YouTube video, watch your YouTube videos. I've heard you on some podcasts. I've heard you talk about negotiable instruments. I kind of understand it. I couldn't explain it to someone. I followed along with you, and it was like I've got some questions about mortgages because I've got.
Yeah, dude, you can get mortgages. We're going after mortgage companies right now. I got Wings. Wings Financial is our first mortgage company that we're going after. So we're going after the full mortgage discharge. Every single payment that was ever made on the mortgage is going to be returned to my client. Plus, we're going to get an additional, I think on the Wings case, it's $50 million in damages just for one mortgage. Oh yeah, we're going to win this thing. There's no question. There's no question. They're already calling us trying to settle. We just got a phone call literally, I think today or yesterday, but I was on a plane and so all this stuff's happening. So I told Preston, my client, I said, look, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be booking stuff. He's on board. My clients are basically like, the way it works is there's two different types of attorneys, an attorney at law and an attorney in fact, right? So I'm an attorney in fact. Now you don't need any credentials. You don't need anything. You don't need a bar card to be an attorney in fact. All you need is a POA, a power of attorney, which is just a contract. So it's, if you have a contract to operate on behalf of someone else as an attorney in fact, you are now an attorney in fact.
Oh, because I've given power of attorney to my accountant and whatever. I could give it to you.
You can give it to anybody you want. And I can give it to you. Yeah. In fact. In fact, right? So the way it works is I can't. So an attorney at law, basically the way that relationship works is you're essentially an infant or person of unsound mind. And you cannot present yourself or communicate yourself. It's like you say the word retard, which I know is like, you said the word retard, but there's actually like a legal definition, right? So a retard in the legal world basically means like a person who cannot handle like their normal day-to-day efforts of like communicating to others, answering mail, picking up the phone. Like you can't like interact and defend and communicate your position or be clear about much of anything in a clear way in an effort to like support your own life.
It has nothing to do with your knowledge of the law. It's just your ability to your day to day.
Well, the way that the law looks at it, the way that the courts look at it is you didn't show up. You didn't try to answer. You didn't do anything. There's Joey Kimbrough, my right-hand man. He's the guy who helps me with all my litigation. He's a brilliant man. He told me, he's like, I was doing a little research, $1 trillion a year in default judgments, which means just people getting sued and they never answer. $1 trillion a year in default judgments in America. $1 trillion a year. And that's just, I mean, literally like you just don't answer. Because if you just like write up whatever, anything, and you answer, the way that the courts operate is that when you operate without a lawyer, which is called pro se, which I know some people are like, oh no, it's sui juris. Anyways, it's a whole conversation, but we'll just say pro se for the sake of this, right? When you operate pro se in the courts, there's literally case law, and there's like actual literally things where they're supposed to go easy on you. They can't give you legal advice, but they're supposed to like make it kind of easy. So even though you may not know how to answer the way you're supposed to answer, there's a procedure for it, right? Even if you don't know, like if you're trying to answer the complaint, they're supposed to like kind of work with you a little bit as a pro se litigant, right? So the thing is that if you receive a lawsuit and you don't respond to it, essentially the way you're looked at is you're retarded. You can't handle. It's like the term responsibility. Everyone uses the term responsibility, but like everyone either doesn't know what it means or they have their own definition of what it means. My definition of responsibility is just responsibility, flip it, ability to respond.
Oh.
In the law, that's the definition essentially of responsibility. Can you respond? If I sue you.
Oh my God,
Can you respond? You don't, nobody responds. Nobody responds. So the way that the law looks at everybody is the whole country is just full of retards.
Yeah.
It's like a big kindergarten. That's basically how the law looks at people.
And very few of us have proven otherwise.
Yeah. And it's the assumption is you're retarded. That's why you need an attorney at law. An attorney at law represents people who cannot present themselves, which is basically either an infant or a person of unsound mind. So when you take on an attorney at law, you sign over your rights because as an infant or person of unsound mind, you've already proven that you cannot respond. You don't have the ability to respond. So if you don't have the ability to respond, why would you be able to all of a sudden stand up and say, I have rights? You can't. You've waived those rights. Whereas an attorney in fact relationship is a relationship where we have a contract and you actually reserve all of your rights as part of that contract entirely. There's a couple of rights that I have you waive as an attorney in fact. The first one is the ability to grant jurisdiction. So you can't just run off and start granting jurisdiction. Like in our relationship, if I'm the attorney in fact over you and we have a power of attorney or a limited power of attorney, you cannot grant jurisdiction.
What's that mean?
You cannot like if someone sues you, you can't be like, oh yeah, like unknowingly grant jurisdiction to that court or grant jurisdiction to a summons or grant. Like you got to come to me first.
Okay.
We have to have a little powwow.
That's to kind of protect me from being an idiot.
Protect you from being an idiot. Yes. The second thing that I have my clients waive is the ability to do a blank endorsement on a negotiable instrument, which is what he was talking about.
Oh yeah. So
when we have a POA and you sign the POA with me, that's it. You can't sign with a blank endorsement anymore. So
anywhere.
And that's to protect you.
Yes.
Right. That's it. Every other right that you have, we actually, in the power of attorney, we actually write it down. That's like without prejudice, everything's all rights reserved, everything. So we actually reserve all of your rights as part of the relationship, which is the exact opposite of what you're doing when you hire an attorney at law. An attorney at law is you're giving away everything.
Fuck.
I am an infant or person of unsound mind. And that comes from the definition of the term client from corpus juris secundum, which is what you become when you take on an attorney at law. And I'll tell you right now, attorneys at law, I've met many of them at this point. They don't have a clue what's going on. Not a clue.
Oh, my best friend's an attorney. He would lose his mind at this. He's very conservative too.
Yeah, they want to argue with me, but they don't know nothing.
He's like, this is another one of your fucking things, Cal. Like, I don't get it. You're fucking out there. It's like, bro, this is like way more out there than you ever. But
what's funny, it's all fully grounded though.
That's the thing.
It's all fully grounded.
Fucks with me and everybody else.
Everything I talk about is literally like, I can show you this definition, boom, boom, every word, everything. It's all totally grounded.
That's one of the things you do an amazing job of is on all your videos. And if you do a remote podcast, you have everything cited above you. Boom. We don't have the ability to do that here. We're going to just have to.
A lot of stuff I know all verbatim is it's all in my head. So I could probably do my whole presentation just right here. That's because I've done it 90 times and I walk around all day repeating it in my head and I listen to my own stuff over and over. I'm like crazy, like in a good way.
Yeah.
Professional. You call it, some people call it crazy. I call it professional.
Yeah.
If I can't do it, I'm like in my head, I'm over here like, okay, let's say I'm blindfolded and then I wind up in front of a jury. I just wake up in front of a jury. can I close the jury on and defend myself in whatever it is that I'm talking about with no notes and no books and no access to anything? And that's kind of like, that's like in my head, that's when you really got it.
That's your,
but that's my own,
star.
that's my level of like what I think I need to know in order to really be successful and be professional in my field, especially with the name like One Stupid Fuck and wearing a mankini. I'm half naked on my website. So it's kind of like, I wanted to like mix it all together. You know what I mean? I wanted it to be like a complete joke and completely insane, but then at the same time, like total professionality at the same time. I wanted both fused into one brand.
It's a beautiful thing
Brandon,
to witness.
For those, and this is Cal's show, so
no, please.
I'm not going to derail anything, but I'm picturing myself.
Fine, can he join the website and it could be Two Stupid Fucks?
I could.
It'd actually be four stupid fucks.
Two stupid fucks. Yeah, it'd be four stupid fucks. Yeah.
Well, that brings me to my question. So when you were on your way here, I was kind of explaining to Cal, like the most simplistic way that I can kind of explain what this field of study is. And the way I see it, I want to get your take on this, is that in the context of the great unlearn, when you're looking at law, it seems to me, as I've gotten into this stuff, that maybe the majority of it is unlearning what we think we know about how the world works. And then the second half of it, or maybe 1/3 of it, is like learning the law that's underneath the law. So the way I look at it is like this. You have this landmass that we called the United States of America, right? The 50 states. And we didn't all used to have names for the states. There were territories and so on, right? Back in the day. Then 14th Amendment, 1871, a lot of this stuff I learned from you, so I'm just trying to regurgitate it. What they did is they created this system of law that superimposed like a grid, like a transparent map on top of the original system of law we refer to as common law. And so there's like this commerce law that's been superimposed on the original law, wherein everyone has their rights and the states have some sovereignty from the federal government. So there's like two countries. But then when they introduced the current version of the birth certificate and they created essentially a security and a micro corporation out of each US citizen, there's also two people walking around. So there's like two countries and two versions of every US citizen, the real living, breathing man or woman, and then this fictitious corporate entity attached to your birth certificate in the all caps name and your social security number. And so to me, the unlearning part of it is what we think is the United States of America is not. And what we think we are is the version of us that's on paper, not the real person. And we go around our whole lives answering to the corporation, the United States, as the subcorporation that they basically own.
Yeah.
It's like a duality. Is that
it's really, I think it's pretty simple. And I know it's not, but after being so freaking obsessed with it for so long and clearing up every definition of every word of everything everywhere.
How long ago did you start on this study?
Literally like out the gate, knew nothing, thought people were crazy who tried to talk to me about it. Like wouldn't even listen to people who told me about it. September of 2021.
That's it?
He's been studying hard, dude.
Holy shit. I would have thought 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay. As you were.
No, I'm just like, I had a problem and I figured it out. I had a government
It was a landscaping company, right?
Coming after me. I had the EDD coming after me and I wanted to figure it out. By the time I had it figured out, I mean, the doors that were opened from me figuring that out were juicier than anything else in my life. So I was like, oh, I got to handle the EDD, boom, 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 boom. And then I was like, finish that. And I was like, oh shit.
And who are they again?
Like, let's go through these doors.
Employment Development
Department, like payroll, horseshit,
Okay.
mafia, payroll, horseshit, whatever. So it's really, really simple to explain this. So the government opened up what's called a public corporation of your name in all capital letters when you were born. It's about 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 days after you were born. So you have two birthdays. You're two persons. Definition of the word person means an individual, an estate, a corporation, a trust, a company, corporation, any of that stuff. It's all persons. So when you see like a criminal case is United States versus John Doe, United States is a person. State of Texas is a person. City of Spicewood is a person. So these are all persons. American Express Bank, National Bank is a person, right? So if you have a trust, if it's a statutory trust, it's a person, right? So the thing is that you have corporations and you have trusts that are statutory. The non-statutory trusts, which would be just like private trusts, like you just, my definition of a trust is basically a contractual agreement where someone agrees to take on the administration of assets. That's like my personal definition of what a trust is. So if you and I draw up a little thing right now and you're like, dude, I got this property, I got this other property, I got these mortgages, I need someone to administer these properties. You could even do it with like a property manager or an assistant or something like that. You would draw up what are even like her or whoever. You draw up like, what is this person's responsibilities in terms of how are they supposed to administer these assets? For example, this house, they're supposed to keep the plant, the foliage in a certain condition. They're supposed to do this, supposed to do that. Now you're the grantor. You bring the trust into existence.
Okay.
And then the assistant or the person who's supposed to be administering the assets would be the trustee. And then the beneficiaries in a trust that's private don't even need to be mentioned. So people are always like, who's the beneficiary? It doesn't really matter because it's all private and they can be changed whenever you want, right? So it doesn't really matter who the beneficiaries are necessarily. In a statutory trust, it does matter though, because there's certain rules and laws associated with a statutory trust, which means a trust that you go to the government to get. But if you and I have a little thing, we draw this up and you're like, yeah, you're going to take over this, you're going to take over my cars, you're going to take over this, and you're going to administer all these assets and you're going to get paid through the trust. And we set up the whole thing. If we have two witnesses, so her and him could sign as witnesses, boom, we just made a trust. A legal, private, or some people are freaks with the words more than I am, even a lawful, private, irrevocable trust. Irrevocable just means you as the grantor, when you created that trust and brought it into existence, you no longer really have any relationship with that trust. So you bring it into existence and then you basically disconnect from it entirely. And it's like a boat. You just built a boat and then now the boat leaves and she's driving the boat and she's in charge of the boat and you don't have anything to do with it anymore. You stay on the dock.
Okay.
That's what irrevocable means. Okay.
How does that grantor and trustee and beneficiary, those three relationships to a trust, how do they relate to the United States corporation and us as the fictitious entity of the birth certificate?
Yeah. So when you're born, if you do have a birth certificate and a social security number, which we pretty much all do, right? That's a whole separate person. That's a statutory public corporation, otherwise known as an ens legis, right? And the social security number is actually just an EIN number for that corporation.
Okay.
So you don't have an SSN. She doesn't, and he doesn't, and I don't. You have an ens legis that has an SSN. Because the ens legis is a person.
Yes. Corporation.
Everything's a person.
Yes.
Person. So let's say you own a company called the Great Unlearn Incorporated, and you sue American Express. In the law, it's the person called the Great Unlearn Incorporated is suing the person called American Express National Bank. Now, you are not that person. You are the attorney in fact or whatever who's presenting on behalf of that person. The way that I write it is, I'm the attorney in fact over that person because that person cannot speak or write.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that that's not me. See, and that's the problem. Because like what's happening is that everyone's writing to that thing over there and you're saying, that's me. You see, that's the problem.
Like when you get a bill and you're all caps.
Everything is not, no one's ever written to you, bro. Like unless it's your friends or your family or someone who knows you privately, no one's ever written to you. None of these companies write to you. They're not writing to you at all.
Okay, so let's unpack
the problem is that they're writing to a person that cannot write back. So you're helping that person respond.
Yes.
You're basically the attorney at law for that thing because that thing is an infant or person of unsound mind. Because that thing can't write back to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's $1 trillion a year in default judgments. Because you're supposed to write back on behalf of that person. That person gives you limited liability in commerce. If you own Starbucks and some person in whatever gets molested, like they're not going to come and arrest you as a CFO of American Express or of Starbucks. Same idea. It's limited liability. So the thing is, everyone's freaking out. They get a letter. But the thing is that you have limited liability in commerce. You're just the attorney on behalf of that person.
Talk about unlearning, right?
So what is there to be? What you think? Why am I so happy? I'm so happy because nobody doing nothing to me. Like, what are you gonna do, man? I respond to everything you send my people, my persons. You know what I mean? Like, I got no problems. You know what I mean? What are you gonna do? You're gonna arrest my person? I'll send it to you. You know, he's a negotiable instrument. I'll send it to you registered mail. Like, here you go. Put him in a jail cell. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? So the thing is that that's the person they want. That's the person they're talking to. It ain't you. So what's the problem?
So what happens when people go to jail?
They go to jail because they identify as that person.
Oh.
Yeah, it's me. Is it you? Yeah, it's me. Okay. What's a jail? A jail's an escrow. Jail and escrow are the same thing. It's a corporate body that goes into a holding cell to perform a contract for a certain amount of time. That's all you're doing is just performing. If you look at the definition of the word payment, it means to perform on a contract or obligation. So performance and payment actually mean the same thing in law. People think that payment means to send in Federal Reserve notes. Oh my God, you gotta be fucking kidding me. That's not, that has nothing to do with payment, bro. Payment means to perform on a contract or obligation.
So
if he's like, hey, I need you to like clean up the house because like, let's say he's my dad or I don't know, whatever. He's like, clean the fucking house, you know, keep yourself, you know, useful.
Yeah, earn your keep.
Earn your keep, right? Technically, that's a payment. I'm technically paying him, performing on a duty, obligation, a contract, you see? Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's actually technically a payment. And in law, what's funny is then you start getting into tender of payment. And what's funny is that if I tender him a payment and he denies that payment, in law, that payment still completes, whether he accepts it or denies it, doesn't matter. Yeah. And that comes from UCC 3-603 subsection B. But if you tender of payment, so if I send in a payment to a mortgage, mm-hmm. So what is the definition of payment? What is the definition of a US dollar? What is the definition of Federal Reserve note? Right? This is what he wanted to get into at the beginning. This is where things get interesting, right?
Yeah.
So negotiable instrument, right? So you have the term money and you have the term negotiable instrument, right? So money is gold and silver coins, as per Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, right? Currency or funds. So if you look at the definition of money in the dictionary, it says does not embrace notes or other evidences of debt. You look up currency or funds in the dictionary, it says it does embrace notes or other evidences of debt. So you don't have money. Like, let's see. I got some of these green things that people accept for God knows what reason. So these are not money. These are negotiable instruments. And that's why there's two signatures on it. So we break all this down. It's really simple. So what is a negotiable instrument? So let's cover that first. So an instrument is just a contract or a deed. Anything could be an instrument, right? Negotiable means if this was a check and it was payable, pay to the order of, which is the terminology you see on a check, pay to the order of Cal, right? And I tried to give it to him, it ain't gonna work. It's actually non-negotiable instrument, you see? But if it's pay to the order of bearer,
okay,
now it's negotiable. So what is cash? I have my own definition for cash.
Well, let's hear it.
My definition of cash is just any negotiable instrument that is endorsed payable to the bearer, which that's what this is. I can give it to him. He can give it to you.
Whoever's in possession of it.
Whoever's in possession of it has the value of it, right? Now, there's only two things that can be negotiable instruments. Do you know what they are?
Bills.
Well, bills of exchange, yeah.
Okay, bills of exchange.
And?
Oh, it's in my notes here.
Federal Reserve notes.
Federal Reserve?
No, notes. Promissory notes.
Okay, promissory notes. There we go.
Okay.
It was in my notes.
So what do you have here? You've got Treasurer of the United States and Secretary of the Treasury and the Federal Reserve all involved in this note. This is a promissory note between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. Duh, it's got Treasury signatures on it, and then it says Federal Reserve on it. So it's like, doesn't require a rocket scientist to figure that one out, right?
Yeah.
So there's some kind of promise, because note means promissory note, always.
Okay.
As per the Bill of Exchange Act from 1882, note means promissory note, bill means bill of exchange in the definition section of the Bill of Exchange Act, right? So you say, okay, it's a promissory note. Someone is promising someone else to make a payment, which doesn't mean money. It means to perform on a contract or obligation. That's the definition of payment, right? So you don't need to exchange any currency for it to be considered a payment at all, which is a whole nother subject, but anyways. So this is some kind of promissory note where somebody's promising somebody. So you say, okay, so who's promising who? You got the Treasury, you got the Federal Reserve. So most likely it's the U.S. Treasury is the debtor and the Federal Reserve is the creditor or whatever. So it's a promissory note that at some point in the future, the Treasury promises to pay the Federal Reserve note $20 of God knows what. It gets to a certain point where it just starts to just fizzle into the matrix because it doesn't make any sense. 20 of what? Silver coins? No, it's not silver coins. So 20 of what? 20 of bottle caps? 20 bottle caps? Like, you don't know. No one knows. 20 of something.
Oh, that's so, wow.
Well,
Yeah.
going back.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
No,
Hold on one
let's
second.
not go back for a second. This is like, yeah, $20. What are dollars? What are?
Well, U.S. dollars are defined as promissory notes or bills of exchange. You'll never see that anywhere, but that's the actual definition, right? So this is just a promissory note made payable to the bearer. You can make a promissory note. You could make a promissory note right now, and you could say, I promise to pay Brandon Joe Williams 20 God knows what bottle caps in the future, at some point in the future. Sign it, which means endorse. Endorsement and signature mean the same thing when it comes to a financial instrument. And then you could now endorse that instrument in a certain way. You can make it payable to the bearer. Now, a blank endorsement is when you just sign it with no conditions. So let's say this was an application for a car. Brandon Joe Williams promises to pay blah, 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 Federal Reserve notes, or it doesn't even, I don't even think it says, I think it's just US dollars, which is totally different. Blah, 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 5% interest, blah, 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 blah. And then I sign it with no conditions. I just sign it with my name or my squiggle or whatever horse shit people do to sign. And now I'm going to give it to CarMax. Now what CarMax does is they take it and they say, oh, a blank endorsed instrument. It's just released doesn't have a payee. It has no information on it whatsoever. So it's a blank check at that point. Now what they do is they stamp a special endorsement on it that says, we're claiming the value of this. This is ours now. Thank you so much. Right? They didn't really steal it per se,
Right.
but they did. But they didn't legally per se steal it, right? You just signed it with a blank endorsement and you released it with no condition. Now what they do is they go to what's called the Federal Reserve discount window. And you can actually look this up. It's called an OC-10 agreement. That's how you get access to the Federal Reserve window. Anyone can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to file an OC-10 probably this year. I've tried calling the Federal Reserve and I can't get a hold of them. So I'm going to go down there, dress up nice, go down there and try to get a rep or something like that and get an OC-10 agreement in place. I want to start swapping these instruments. They write up what's called an application for notes, which comes from Title 12 of the United States Code, Section 412. If anyone wants to look that up, how that works, it's really simple. And then they just write up, they say, hey, we got this instrument. It's at face value. So what's cool about the instrument is the value of the instrument is the value of the maturity of the instrument.
Oh.
So you can actually pay off a car and put money in your pocket by buying a car. Because where's all the interest going to go? Like, I want that. Claiming it. You ain't taking that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So the thing is that what they do is they go to the Federal Reserve window and they write an application for notes, right? And the Federal Reserve says that if you want to make an application for Federal Reserve notes, you have to have what they call a collateral security. The collateral security is that original agreement that you agreed to pay the car. So they swap the application for the car at the Federal Reserve discount window. They receive Federal Reserve notes, promissory note transaction. It's a promissory note for a promissory note. This is the product of promissory note. It's a different type of promissory note.
Yeah, the money.
And then they give you back the money they just swapped from the instrument they just swapped.
So when you go buy...
So if I claim the instrument, when you sign the document, it actually means endorse. And the way that you spell it is not with an E, you spell it with an I. Because if you look in UCC Article 3, which is all about negotiable instruments, they always say the word I, I-N-D-O-R-S-E-M-E-N-T, right? So you have a contract to buy a brand new car, and you write, without recourse, pay to the order of your check terminology. You can have it pay to the order of me, pay to the order of whoever you want. You can even say pay to the order of CarMax Financial. Below that, you put by BY colon, and then now is where you sign. That's like who's releasing this, who's the one. So you're issuing these orders and these conditions as part of the instrument. Who's the one authorizing this? And that's where you sign. And then you put a line, and then below that you write Brandon Joe Williams, comma, attorney in fact.
So no longer a blank endorsement. This is a special endorsement.
Special endorsement.
Okay.
Special endorsement states the payee, and it has conditions. Blank endorsement is just a blank check.
And this works.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I go down to BMW right now. I want a $50,000 car. I've got 10 grand down, and I need to finance.
Well, down payments are illegal, but yeah.
Okay.
Of course they are. Everything is illegal.
Down payments are totally illegal.
No, walk me through this. So I say I got an 840 credit score, right?
Well, you don't need a credit score either, but yeah.
I want to finance it.
Why do you think I'm so happy? Why do you think I'm so happy all the time?
Oh my God.
Walk me through this. So in a classic situation, they're going to run my credit to see if I get approved for the loan. So say I get approved for the loan. They hand me the contract.
Well, even if they don't approve you, that you can sue them because that's totally insane. But yeah, continue.
Okay. So they hand me a contract. Yeah, everything looks good, Mr. Story. Just sign here. Here's what your payment's going to be every month. And it's for this many months and you're good to go. Rather than signing with the blank endorsement, I sign it with the special endorsement,
Yes.
as you just outlined. I hand it to them. What I picture happening is they're like, what the fuck is this? Get the fuck out of here. You're not getting the car. Bye.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes what happens is because no one knows any of this information, they'll give you the car and then a month later you'll get a call from the financial company and they'll say, the way you sign those documents isn't going to work. We need you to come down and re-sign. And you say like, what's wrong with them? Like, I don't know. The person on the phone never knows.
Oh, right.
They just know that it's wrong. And then you have to re-sign it, right? Now, the reason why it's wrong and the reason why you have to re-sign it is because the only place that they can put those funds once they swap the funds at the Federal Reserve window is right back on your account and zero out the account. And then you also have a huge additional balance
that
they have to refund to you.
Yeah.
So you go and buy a brand new BMW, you get the BMW for free, plus you get an $18,000 check.
So basically,
And if they don't do it, they go to prison for 25 years. It's totally illegal. It's purloining negotiable instruments, Title 18. It's highly crazy illegal. It's like kidnapping level stuff.
And so I know everybody fucking listening right now. So you've done this you've had clients. So
we're in lawsuits. We're doing, I'm pumping them out, man. Lawsuits, man. We're going after, I think I've got $412 million in lawsuits. I'm just barely getting started. I mean, the engine hasn't even heated to normal operating temperature yet.
Are you on anybody's radar right now?
I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
What are you going to do? You can't,
So because they're not disclosing the way the negotiable instrument works to you as the person who is endorsing it, are they essentially committing a securities fraud? Is that the law that they're
Here's the crazy
breaking?
thing about all this. It's not technically illegal. They aren't technically stealing anything. It's your responsibility
because I'm giving them the blank endorsement.
Because you've done the blank endorsement. Now,
which we've done a lot through our lives. In
everyone does.
Ways.
No one knows this. Even the banks don't know this. You can go to your bank teller and ask them, what's a negotiable instrument? I don't know.
Well, I was going to ask, like, at the highest level of the banks, do they know this is how the banks work?
Kind of, but not really. I talked to a couple guys. No.
Yeah.
No. So so the thing is that everyone's walking around with incorrect definitions. Like, for example, the word payment. Nobody knows what the word payment means. Everybody thinks it means you send in Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Federal Reserve notes at all whatsoever. You can you could write up a promissory note right now, sign with a blank endorsement and send it in. You just made a payment. You just performed on an obligation or contract. You could pay off all your mortgages. Now, they're not going to do it. You got to litigate. You got to beat their head in. But that's how you do it. You litigate. There's nothing they can do. There's literally nothing they can do. Because UCC 3-603 subsection B states that if you attempt a payment, so the word tender is also another interesting word. The word tender means to essentially offer without condition. That's what the word tender means. So let's say I sold you, let's say I cleaned your shoes and I just delivered your shoes and you have your shoes on right now. And I say, hey, and you said, hey, let's say because I have the money here. I have the negotiable instrument here. So let's say you just cleaned my shoes, okay? And I'm looking at my shoes and they go, if you get me an invoice, this is yours. That wouldn't be a tender because it's conditional. But if I look at my shoes and I said, oh, thank you very much. And I go like this. Now I just tendered a payment. Now let's say that we agreed that bottle caps were what I was going to pay. That was the contractual way that you were going to accept a payment. If I were to extend my arm and unconditionally say, this bottle cap is now yours. Now what happens is now it's your responsibility to accept that bottle cap, right? So the transaction isn't completed until you accept it. The definition of acceptance when it comes to negotiable instruments and finances is delivery.
So if I accept delivery on it,
if you accept delivery, then that's now a completed transaction, right? Now, let's say I offer you this negotiable instrument and you say, no, I don't accept Federal Reserve notes. Now, on the statutory side, you actually can't do that. That's the funny part. So if you say no to this and I say no problem and I put it back in my pocket, in law, I just paid you $20 even though you didn't accept it. So when you send in a promissory note to pay off a mortgage, they're going to say, we don't accept that kind of payment, which is literally the most illegal and insane thing. You could start putting people in prison for 25 years left and right. The funny thing about it is, as soon as you get that letter back, it says, we don't accept this kind of payment. That's all you need. You just got all the evidence that you need. It's now paid off. Because they can't, UCC 3-603 subsection B states that if you deny me attempting to perform on the contract, then whatever amount that I attempted to give you in order to perform in that contract discharges off of the debt. So if I let's say I try to give you a promissory note for $287,000.
Yeah.
If you reject that as a payment we don't accept, that's all the evidence I need in court to now $287,000 must come off of my bill.
And why is that? That is so just maddening. I can't wrap my head around.
Because that's just how it is. Because in 1933 it took away all the gold and silver, and they made it impossible for us to actually pay anything with money, and that's when the whole negotiable instrument system took over everything. And the thing is that the definition of the word credit in law is the right to defer payment to a later date. So the government, in exchange for taking away all the gold and silver coins, gave us infinite credit. So every single ens legis or public corporation has infinite ability to defer payment to a later date. No different than this. What's the payment date on this negotiable instrument?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So when that happened in 1933, when they called in all the gold and started issuing the Federal Reserve notes.
Well, they already had the Federal Reserve notes. It's just that there was both.
Oh, because 1913, the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, there's both.
Okay. Is 1933?
33 is when that's all gone, and now all we have is this.
And is that the same time that they started pulling the shenanigans with the birth certificate and the ens legis?
Probably because the Social Security Act was 1935. So what happened was that before 1933, gold and silver coins were the backing for I think even Federal Reserve notes, but just promissory notes in general were backed by gold and silver. Silver certificates and gold certificates is what they were called. And you can look all that up online. I collect a lot of different types of old currency and coins, and I have all stuff all over my apartment, all over the tables, because I find it fascinating. It's like a immersion. You immerse yourself in that of which you want to. It's kind of how I live my life. So it's just crazy. Like money and currency and Confederate currency from the Civil War and coins and custom coins and big wooden, all this all over the place. My whole apartment, right? That's like what I love. And so 1935, you have the Social Security Act. The Social Security Act is what now backs the Federal Reserve notes. So it's our future potential production is basically the credit that backs these things. But it just gets to a point where it's just so silly anymore.
Yeah.
It's just lost all, it's just like a drifting, because you start to go down, oh, that makes sense. And then you get to a certain point where like, whoa, it doesn't make sense anymore. Because it just kind of fizzles, right? Because it's just silliness at a certain point. That's kind of what it is, right? So it gets to a point where you promise to pay anything and you send it to anybody, and acceptance is delivery. You send it certified or registered mail, you force them to sign for the parcel. Once they sign for it, it's delivered. They accepted it.
All right. So with the mortgage,
I think it's crazy because if you overpay, they have to refund the money. So it gets even crazier. You can actually overpay with a promissory note.
Oh, wow.
So this gets, I mean.
All right. So give me an example of a mortgage where this is borne out like this that you've worked on.
Well, we're working on my first mortgage. We're working on right now. We've done tons of free cars.
Okay.
We've done
cars.
We've done like probably 70 or 80 cars easily. But mortgages, like the mortgage companies and stuff, like they don't want anybody. They're not going to go down without like a fight to the death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like unsecured is really easy. What are they going to do? Student loans. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Damn.
What are you going to do? Come after me?
Because there's no asset attached.
No, there's nothing attached to it, right? Now, what's crazy is that the original application, this gets pretty fascinating. The original application that you signed, as far as the Federal Reserve is concerned, is called a collateral security. So why in the F is your house collateral on a loan that the original application was the collateral security? And the original application is worth far more than what the principal on the house is ever worth. You could write up a thing right now and you could say, I hereby release my home as collateral security on this mortgage because the original application was the collateral security and it was more than enough to pay for the entire value of the loan. And you just send them a letter and you literally say, that's it. The home is no longer, it's called a novation, which means a change in contract. So when you're using Facebook and they say terms and conditions have changed, and if you continue to use Facebook, you agree to the new terms and conditions, that's called a novation. You can write a novation too. And if they sign for it, it's delivered. If it's delivered, it's accepted.
Oh, wow.
So you write up a novation and you say, look, I didn't realize that the original collateral security was actually the mortgage application itself, and I released it with a blank endorsement. The home was never supposed to be part of the collateral on this loan at all. Doesn't need to be. I hereby order you to release all interest on the home, and the home is hereby no longer a collateral on the loan at all. The bank will go crazy because the thing is that's true. They can't. The home can't be a collateral on the loan. It's impossible.
So the banks.
It's only there because It's literally all based off of assumptions and contracts. You have the infinite ability to contract. So involuntary servitude is illegal. Voluntary servitude is perfectly legal. They can give you a contract into fucking anything. The problem is you signed it.
And so how do we start to unsign these things?
Novation.
And so what does that look like for, I mean, let's maybe go back to even the beginning to like unpack status correction.
I mean, what's the time?
Okay, so we're on a bit of a tight schedule.
I'll go if you want to go. Let's go.
This is part 1 of 2. So we've got 15 minutes right now. What do you?
Like Ace Ventura style. Like
I got a bunch of fucking notes right now. So I think probably the best thing to do is give it a little cliffhanger, like you had said before. We could talk about what is a U.S. citizen. We could talk about the birth certificate.
I could probably hit it pretty good in 15 minutes. So
we could also talk about what happens to income taxes.
Well, you gotta hit that first.
You
gotta
fucked
hit
me up on that one big time.
Well, income tax. What is income? Federal Reserve notes? It's a promissory note. Send me a bill. Send me a bill of exchange. I'll endorse it. I'll send you back a promissory note. Whatever you want. $400 million. What's my tax liability? Okay, fine. Here's a promissory note. Boom.
Well, I've heard you say that. Someone asked if you didn't pay your taxes. Like, it's not that I do not have tax liability.
Yeah. So the definition of the term taxpayer comes from 26 USC 7701 subsection A14. The definition is any person who is subject to any internal revenue tax. I am not subject to any internal revenue tax. Thus, I am not a taxpayer. And the way that they determine that is it's called tax liability. So it's sort of like this. People are like, oh, you don't pay your taxes. I say the way that I say it in a way that makes sense to most people. I never got the bill.
Yeah.
Which is actually a bill of exchange. You see, which is even more hilarious.
Yeah.
Because you can send me a bill of exchange for $40 million and I'll endorse it, send it back, and I just pay. I just performed on an obligation or contract.
I met a guy the other day who
the problem is they don't know that. The IRS is the only organization in the world that follows the law, by the way. Literally. There's like almost no other organization on the planet that follows the law. If you endorse a bill of exchange from the Internal Revenue Service, send it back, you'll never hear from them again. They will process that as a payment. If you do that with any other company, American Express or mortgage, they're going to flip out, tell you they're not accepting the payment, do all this totally illegal shit. The IRS won't do that.
I met a guy the other day.
I want you to 101 that for everybody, myself included, what you just said.
The IRS is really good at following these laws and these rules.
Okay.
But they won't tell you the rules.
Right.
But they also won't fight you when you play by the rules.
So give me an example of how something would play out with them where they would follow it and you'd be like, holy fuck, that just worked.
It's a voluntary system. 26 Code of Federal Regulations, section 601.602 states that the tax code or tax laws or tax system, I forget the exact wording, it's based on voluntary compliance. You're telling them how much you owe, which violates which amendment? Fifth Amendment. Oh, bingo. Fifth Amendment says that you cannot incriminate yourself. You don't have to incriminate yourself. You have the right against self-incrimination. You are waiving your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination whenever you willingly and voluntarily give the Internal Revenue Service information.
Oh, so when I say, hey, this is my tax liability.
But it gets even crazier because when you tell them the tax liability, you're also promising to pay the tax liability, which makes your original documentation that you sent to the IRS a promissory note, which means that as soon as you sent them that promissory note, it's already paid. It's that simple. You could tell the Internal Revenue Service that, yeah, I owe $80,000. This is now a promissory note. You can endorse the promissory note without recourse when you sign your tax return. Just sign it without recourse. Once they process it, you don't know it. It goes in and it goes and it just fizzles away. It just disappears.
Dude, a friend of mine the other day, we were talking about this stuff and check this out. He doesn't take kind of the same status correction course and not being a U.S. citizen, all that. When he gets bills from the IRS, I think that's what he said. He just writes on it, accepted, and sends it back and it goes away.
The IRS, that's not even really totally legal in terms of that, and they'll still accept it.
It's insane.
That's actually not, in my opinion, not the full process of how you would really endorse it. But for me, it'd be the without recourse, pay to the order of Internal Revenue Service or IRS or whichever, and then by : and then you sign there to release the line, and then Brandon Joe Williams, attorney in fact. To me, that's the full special endorsement as per UCC Article 3. Then you send that back with a cover letter. Thank you very much. I have performed on the bill exchange. Please see attached special endorsed bill of exchange and process as necessary. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me or email me. Cover letter.
Okay, so
are you unlearning?
You can just see heads exploding listening to this. Like, what?
So I'm trying to be in my mind, but also like, what are other people wanting to fucking know right now? So,
well, if we go back to status correction,
well, there's so many different things. So many like different status correction is one, but like there are so many things that could be done with paperwork as a grand scheme to like fucking pull yourself out of this system that
what is a ticket? A ticket for like speeding, let's say. What is a ticket? It's a promise to show up in court. You promise to, they tell you, this is not an admission of guilt. It's a promise to show up in court. It's a promise to perform. What is the definition of payment? To perform on a contract or obligation. So it's the same thing. It's a performance contract, but there's still a payment associated with it, right? So it's still a negotiable instrument, basically. So if you sign your ticket without recourse, it just vanishes. Without recourse means once I give this to you, I don't have any responsibility and I don't need to perform.
So you don't need to show up in court. You don't need to do anything.
Right? Without recourse above everything you sign or endorse. If it's a financial instrument, it's called an endorsement. It's not called a signature. Well, it could be, but it's better to say endorse. Without recourse means that's without recourse. Once I deliver it, it's accepted. Without recourse, that's it. It's over. They're going to pretend that, we can't process this, this, that. They can't do any of that.
Once they've already accepted it.
Once it's delivered. And that's the beauty of certified or registered mail. The dumbass receptionist signs for it. It's over.
So when you send those send it in.
It's over.
Registered.
It's done.
Okay.
You go in there, you're like, I'm trying to perform on this contract. Oh, no, we're not going to accept that. No problem. Go home, put it in an envelope, send it registered mail. Make them sign for it. Once it's delivered, it's accepted.
There's the income tax thing's definitely got my attention.
What is income? What is income?
The mortgage thing, I get it. If there's a lot of, they're going to fucking lose their shit. It's going to be a heavy lift to get through that.
What is income? Receiving these have no intrinsic value. These aren't money.
Yeah, so what is income? Fuck no.
They've never defined it. It can't be defined. It's impossible. The only way they could ever define it would be gold and silver coins, because I could have 1 trillion of these. 20 of what? They don't have any intrinsic value. There's nothing here. The only reason why I can give you this 20 of nothing and you'll accept it as a value of 20 of nothing is just because. But in law, this has no intrinsic value. It's 20 of what? We don't know. No one knows.
Let's say the only income, let's just use that for argument's sake, I had in a particular year is I had bought a house, I sold it, I made $100,000 for
profit. There's no profit because you got a bunch of these don't have any fucking intrinsic value.
Okay, hold on. So I bought a house for $900,000. I sold it for $1 million.
Check this out. What's the intrinsic value of this?
I mean, any idiot would say $20, but
that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
What's the intrinsic value of this?
Right. I don't know.
Okay, what's the intrinsic value of this?
The same.
What's the intrinsic value of this?
Yeah.
What's the intrinsic value of this? What's the intrinsic value of this? Nothing.
No.
0. So what's your income? 0. And the thing is, they don't have any jurisdiction over gold and silver coins. They don't want jurisdiction over gold and silver coins. They hate gold and silver coins. And anything you read in the United States Code talking about gold and silver coins goes in circles. The most batshit thing in the government's head and in the United States Code is gold and silver coins. There's so much weird, convoluted, confusing, circular craziness involving gold and silver coins. They don't want nothing to do with it. They don't want you using it. They don't really even register it as anything. So the thing is that even if you were making gold and silver coins, they don't even want to talk about it anyways. They don't even like there's a certain subjects that these codes are literally psychotic on. One of those subjects is gold and silver coins. I mean, even if you went into a courtroom and they wanted to talk about gold and silver coins, it's so psychotic that nobody could even navigate it. It's literally just pure psychosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, a lot of areas in the United States Code are actually really cool. And there's a lot of really amazing definitions. And like, I find this whole thing to be like a huge spiritual endeavor. I mean, reading these things and learning these things and learning the definition of payment and learning the definition of all these different things is like the most freeing, mind-blowing, spiritual, enlightening, like craziness I've ever. I mean, it's like I feel like I'm in a philosophy study with a lot of this stuff, right? Because these definitions come from hundreds of years ago, right? This is an old world. This is the 1882 is where a lot of these definitions, and it could be even earlier than that, right? So, this is not anything new. This is old, 150 years or more, stuff. This is how we've been operating for a long time. So, so gold and silver coins are the only way you can have a true positive. They don't want to have any, they so much as even hear about them or think about them, and they don't know what to do. So the thing is, what is income? Who fuck knows, man? God only fucking knows what income is. And then where's the United States located? God only fucking knows. UCC 9-307 subsection H states that the United States is located in the District of Columbia. Where in the District of Columbia? How big is it? Is it an octagon? Is it a square? Is it a rehedron? Who knows? Is it 2 feet by 1 foot? Is it 150 feet by 175 feet? Is it a decadahedron? Who knows? No one knows. No one knows. What is income? No one knows. Where's the United States? No one knows. Nobody knows. I've never seen it.
If you look up the United States as a corporation on Duns and Bradstreet, does it have a physical address in the District of Columbia?
Yes.
123 Main
Does that
Street?
mean it's in a filing cabinet? Does that mean it's the building? Does that mean it's the block? Does that mean, who knows? I've never seen it. I have no idea.
Because it's the corporation.
Yeah. Which is a person.
You son of a bitch. All right, we're gonna fucking. Is
that a good spot for the cliffhanger?
That's perfect. Because when we come back, there's more to unpack with this income tax thing.
Is there now?
And that's just the fucking tip of it. I'm gonna fucking get my head straight, and then it's gonna fucking blow up again.
You're feeling like the government feels when it comes to gold and silver coins right now. Like,
yes, absolutely. My fucking brain is mush.
Don't feel bad. I've been studying my ass off on this for.
Is it good though?
Now.
Do you feel like is this like?
Yes.
This is like a level. This is like a good level.
Yeah.
Like we're getting into it, but like we're getting up and out of it. Like you feel like we're.
Yeah. I think we get down in
plane.
there, and then it's like it's important to get those. Like, what do the idiots like me really want to know? Like, how does this income tax? Don't call me.
So
on
a
the
tax
income
is a
thing.
contribution imposed. It's literally you're volunteering to gift money for the benefit of the person called United States. That is legally how it's a few definitions spliced together, what I just gave you, but that's literally it's in a trust. That trust is for the benefit of the United States, and it is literally a gift to this trust. The definition of tax is a contribution imposed, and the definition of income is God only knows. And the United States is God knows where.
One of the things you told me a month or so ago, Luke, that just I fucking couldn't wrap my head around it was, and I forget what the whole fucking journey was, but somehow we ended up back in England and they held all of something or other, and I was so fucking confused. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because we're all led to believe that it's part of the PSYOP, that it's our civic duty to contribute our tax revenue, our income, right? So that we can build roads and schools and hospitals and all that. It's like, that's not where the money goes. As I understand it, the money to build the infrastructure and to pay for the government comes from prison bonds. That's why there are so many private prisons overflowing, and why they create all these goddamn laws that aren't really laws to throw us in jail so they can make money off our birth certificate, which is a bond.
I mean, they can promise to pay whatever they want. They can, it's all just, you can make up as much as you, I mean, I could write you a promissory note right now for $150 trillion for a $10 bill of exchange because I bought a drink off you. And I could go after you, litigate against you, and I'll probably win, and you'll owe me $149,999,999,999,990.
Explain where income tax money actually goes.
It goes to a private corporation called the Internal Revenue Service, which is located in a foreign country zone called the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. And as far as I know, there's like a Granger report or whatever. There's some reports where they talk about like what happened with the IRS and our tax money. It just gets squandered. It doesn't really go anywhere. I mean, the whole point of income tax is to pay the interest on the loan in the first place. So what happens is that the way that they teach it is, yes, that money goes towards the benefit. It's a gift. It's a contribution imposed, and it goes toward the benefit of the person called the United States, which we don't know where that person is, but wherever they are, you know. So the thing is that you pay, which means to perform on a contract or obligation. So you tell them you have a tax liability through a voluntary system.
Mm-hmm.
Now you are performing on that contract, which is a payment. That payment of a promissory note, which you can give them any type of promissory note they want, and they can't refuse it, as per UCC 3-603 subsection B. They can't refuse any promissory note. You could actually take your bill of exchange that your phone company mails you, endorse it, and send it into the IRS, and it's technically a payment because a bill of exchange is a negotiable instrument.
Oh, and then we're going to end here. But like credit card bills they're all positive.
Imagine everything you get in the mail is a big like rubber branded stack of cash.
Because they're all positive, right? They're not negative. That's
positive value. So they're saying we have all this positive value. What do you want us to do with it?
So I get a bill for $1,000 for my electricity in the summer. What do I do?
And you endorse it.
Endorse it with
special endorsement.
Special endorsement without recourse.
Well, if you want the insurance policy of once it's delivered, means it's accepted, that's it. You can't come back to me. So without recourse means when I send this to you and you accept it, you can never come back to me for any sort of issues or non-payment or anything. Like it's a done deal. Like it closes it out. Whatever you do with that instrument now is on you without recourse.
So in the case of the power company, would they get that special endorsement bill of exchange back from Cal? And then they're like, cool, that's nice. We're shutting off your power.
Well, I sent in a bill of exchange that was special endorsed to my utility company, and the city attorney sent it back and said, well, it's funny because my cover letter has my logo from my law firm, and I send everything as a lawyer, right?
Yeah,
an attorney, in fact. And so they send it back. Dear Mr. Williams, Esquire, which I hate that term, Esquire. It violates the 13th Amendment. I never use that, right? So the dear Mr. Williams, Esquire, you've sent us something that basically what they sent back was like, you sent us something that we, relief cannot be granted. Like you didn't give us anything that we're supposed to be responsible for. Something kind of weird and kind of vague. And it has like stamp received on it and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, great, that's all I need. Now I can litigate. I just got all the evidence I did. They received the payment. They denied the payment, which is illegal. All you need is that go fuck yourself letter back and you've already won. You go straight to court.
Dude.
Now it gets more exciting because now at that point, what you say is you say, look, I don't want to go through this every month with you guys where I send you the bill of exchange, I perform, which is a payment, and you reject my payment, which you can't do. And then I sue you. And then now you're paying me damages and you're doing all this stuff. Why don't we just simplify everything? I'll give you a limited power of attorney to do a special endorsement on behalf of me. And you can just special endorse these things all by yourself every month. And I don't need to do nothing. And the judge goes, well, yeah, that makes the most sense. Otherwise, I'm going to sue you guys here in another month. It's like, look, I'll sue you every month. And I'll ask for 10, 20 grand in damages every single month. So not only am I getting free electricity, but now you're paying me 20 grand a month just to have the electricity. Do you want to do that? Or would you rather me just give you a limited power of attorney and you can just do a special endorsement on my behalf? And then you don't need to mail me bills of exchange anymore because I've already automatically performed every month and you always get paid.
All right, we're going to end it there. Round 2.
And I'm much more informed as to your background and stuff. So that's going to be, I almost want to interview you at this point.
Okay, well,
to be honest,
there'll be
we don't need to though.
There'll be some room for questions. But I'm really glad we've done it the way we did because it gave me time to sit with what you shared and this other stuff that I've kind of researched from your content, and then really start to drill down on some stuff that's practical for myself and for the listener, right? Because there's a lot. I mean, you could go on for 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
You can go down many rabbit holes, and that's useful. And right now, like, I want to try to land it for some people. But before we do that,
well, one thing I wanted to say on that too, really quick.
Absolutely.
That's really fascinating is, do you have a lot of people in finance that watch your show?
I think there's a decent amount of people who, yeah.
So it's like, the more you invest in something, the more anything that would come in that would threaten that idea is going to go, the mind's going to go into freak out defense mode, right? Because it's like, no, fuck, no, because like I did this for 20 years. Like there's no way that someone's just going to come in and tell me something that's just like, and like all these hotshot people, blah, 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 and all this stuff. So had I known that last time, I would have been like, wow. Cause like you have to have a real, good grasp of your own mind and a really good, like firm reality to be able to even listen to what I'm saying. So like, that's pretty cool. I just wanted to say that.
Oh no, thanks. I appreciate that. And I think again, that like the name of the podcast, right? I'm willing to be curious about all these things. Doesn't mean that I implement everything I learn.
Yeah.
But I'm open to seeing what is aligned with where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And so this, as I mentioned before, was like a real mind fuck, which I love. Because I need, we need that like pattern interrupt to shake us out and start to see things differently. We're so conditioned, we get in the grooves, and this is how it's always been. And as we uncovered, in the first part of the episode, there's so much that isn't as it seems. And I think that's where 5-6 years ago, that's where I went on this journey. It was like, oh wow, there's so much that isn't as it seems. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And now we're diving into something that's very personal to me.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. To your point that I've been in this game for 25, 30 years of investing and making money and paying taxes and doing all these things and having mortgages. And okay, so how do we start to navigate that piece? But before we do, when I saw you, I asked how you were doing, and you're just not sleeping that much.
No.
And as you travel, a little bit of it's travel. But what you shared, and I love that you're willing to talk about this, because I think this is really important for people to understand that there is, the joke, there's like two persons behind, Brandon Joe Williams. There's a human there that is experiencing life differently, and the people around you, much like when I went on my journey, people weren't sure what the fuck I was doing, and it wasn't anywhere to the degree of what you're sharing.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. Psychedelics and this and that. Like people were like, whoa, what are you doing? You're operating on a even a different level. And so I'm just curious, like when you started to do this work, and it's really been recently, when I think 21, is that when you said you went kind of
September, when I first started studying it, and then I launched the first text version of my website that didn't have any audio, visual, anything. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I had nothing. I had just a text, just a very small book, which was my state national theory page. It was much smaller, much less filled out, much less awesome, much less simple, much less grounded. It was probably one of the, not to be like egotistical, but it was an excellent resource when I first released it. But it's like nothing compared to what it is now. Not even a thousandth of what it is now, especially with all the audio visual that I have now. I have so much content. It's like unbelievable. I probably have, if you combine all the shows that I've been on, probably 2 hours per show times 75 shows. And then you have the 24 hours of material on my free course. And then you have probably another 30 or 40 or 50 hours of material, just kind of wherever, you're looking at probably 100 and 200, 300, 250 to 320 hours of content produced in the past since July 2nd of 2022.
Okay. So we're not even 2 years into that part of it.
That part. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I like that you referenced in the beginning, it was ungrounded. That is very common for when we come into these awarenesses. We're just like shouting from the rooftops, like, holy shit, you need to know this. And it isn't until some time and some more experience with it that we get to actually ground it a little bit. And then, you know, it's like when I first started doing CrossFit, not the same thing. Well, I was fucking telling everybody and they're like, you're fucking crazy. And I couldn't contain myself because it was changing my life.
Yep.
And I think a lot of us are like that when we just want to share this with people. Like you need to know this. And sometimes we get it out there and the audience is like, whoa, that's way too much going on for me.
It comes off as like mommy daddy energy a lot of times. And then it's like kind of like, it kind of pushes people into that like F mommy, F daddy energy a little bit. I think like that's my own personal interpretation of it. Like you get so excited, you have to do this.
Oh, yeah. And then what you're sharing is something that is counter to what they've always been told. And they're like, whoa, this is a house of cards here. And I don't want to upset.
It's counter in a way that benefits them dramatically though. That's why everyone wants it and everyone's losing their mind at the same time. It's not like they're losing their mind and then they defend. They're like losing their mind and they're like pushing forward with like drool coming down their mouth. Because the amount of my whole platform, I even say it in the free course. What I like to do is I want you to be fulfilled to levels that you never knew imaginable. And then immediately once you're fulfilled to levels that you never thought was imaginable, I would hope, I'm not telling, I say on the course, I'm not like telling you what to do because it's your life and you can do whatever you want with your life as long as you're not harming people or slandering people or swindling people. And I say, you know, if you're feeling really good and you're fulfilled, then typically, I mean, I'd say like 80 to 90% of most individuals will then turn around and start helping others fulfill their lives. And it becomes a domino effect. And that's kind of like one of the main purposes of what I'm thinking. Cause like in trust law, you have the trustee and the beneficiary. I'm the trustee when I'm teaching. And then the people who are listening are benefiting from my teaching. And my job is to make sure that my fiduciary role as the trustee is fulfilled to its maximum capacity. So I'm always thinking, how can I speed up the teaching? How can I deepen the teaching? How can I get around emotional blockages where you start to go too fast and it's too insane and it's too much and it's too compact? You start to get an emotional defense mechanism. And it's like, whoa, this is just like, cause you're just like shredding their skull in like seconds. Then like, how do you handle that? Like, do you infuse self-deprecating humor? Do you infuse, how do you keep that speed and velocity without necessarily having to slow down if possible? Like I'm always trying to figure that out. Right. And the whole thing is like, once the beneficiary is benefited to a vast degree, then I think, and I hope, and it seems as though that's just what's happening is then they can now turn around. They have so much to give. They have such an abundance. And now they can turn around and be the trustee, and then other people can become the beneficiaries. And I feel like that is trust law in its most basic essence, coming from Jesus. I'm not a Christian, but trust law requires you to study a lot having to do with the Bible. It's all from the Bible. It's all from that type of thing. So regardless of how religious you are, if you want to get into trust and trust law and go down that rabbit hole in a deep and meaningful way, you will be studying the Bible. You will be studying Bible verses. You will be studying the word of Jesus Christ, whether you are religious or want to or not. I have no desire to be a Christian or to involve myself at all, but I have a strong desire in taking this information that's in this book called the Bible, and realizing that it all of law, I mean, really all of law comes from the Bible. So you have a parable from the Bible, and then that becomes like a huge, like really, really basic element in the legal system. So when you learn the Bible stuff, you're learning like most people are operating at this like 100 level complexity. When you get down to the Bible and Bible verses and trust law, you're working with like literally like the original Adam and Eve structural system of the entire financial and legal system. It's so it just, I mean, I don't like things that are like way abstract. I'm always trying to figure out like what's basic underneath this. Okay. What's basic underneath this? Okay, where did that come from? Okay, where did that come from? Why? When? Okay, where did that come from? Why? When? And then you get down to a certain point and the shovel hits nothing.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of that's the Bible and trust law. So it's a fascinating philosophical, spiritual journey that a lot of Christians are getting involved in. They see this as literally like even a greater understanding than their own church of the voice of God. Yeah. So it's kind of weird. It's almost like a church for a lot of people, even though I don't look at it that way, but it's like there's a lot of people who are on board who are like, I'm getting more closer to God from this material than I am from my own church, which is like crazy, right? So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Okay, so before we dig a little deeper into that, I want to circle back to what your personal experience has been and when like people started to like your homies, your friends, your community. And it seems like a lot of them are just like, we ain't down with this. And what's that been like?
Yeah. So I was like, kicked out of my home. I was living with some friends. They were scared that either the FBI was going to come or Channel 5 News, and they didn't want either one. So, that was sort of like, they were kind of cool about it. It's like, 45, 60 days, like no, like super crazy.
How long
rush.
ago was this?
This was like April of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then like my employer, who was like a father figure to me, that started to go south really rapidly, and just every aspect of my life, every person, every aspect, every group, everything just started to move away from me very rapidly, and then people all over the world that I didn't know online started to move into my life very rapidly. Love letters, naked photos, the whole 9 yards. Hot girls hitting me up. I've never in my life ever been like, I don't think I've ever been hit up by a hot girl in my life. So it's like, I'm like the hot girl. I'm like living like hot girl summer, like my hoe phase. You know what I mean? So it's like that is super weird because they're not local to me. So it's like, I live in this world now where all of my physical local connections everything is gone, and it's been replaced with this international digital nation. I mean, I have my own nation, so it's like literally like my own nation. It's like the whole world is like my nation, but they're just photos and text and messages and naked photos or love letters, or people mail me shit too. So it's like, I get a lot of like gifts and like love letters and all sorts of shit in the mail. So
I'm guessing.
So it's fulfilling in one way. It emotionally, it's more fulfilling than I've ever imagined from anything. I've never had anything like this. Every day I get, you changed my life, this and that. I mean, like literally people are crying like every day, like messaging me like that. Like it's very intense. It's very, very intense. Like,
yeah, that's a lot of energy.
Yeah. So on that side, it's like, holy shit. That's really amazing. But on the other side, like I don't have a social life. There is no social life. It doesn't exist.
So that allows you to go balls deep in the work too.
I kind of would be anyways. Yeah. So there's just like, there's that aspect of it too, where but then I come to Austin and it's like, God, you guys this is just amazing what you guys have here. I don't know if, Are you totally aware of how amazing it is? I mean, it's just like unbelievable. I mean, it's like, I'm like almost, I can't sleep. Literally. It's so amazing. Like, it's like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. The people are very open. They're very curious. And there's a certain feeling that things aren't as they seem in many areas. And you're opening up for a lot of people a new can of whoop ass on that, on what they've suspected all along and just haven't been able to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
They've gotten nuggets here and there, and yeah, that makes sense. But it's what you're doing is kind of completing the puzzle in some ways. And it is complicated, and it is rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And it does eventually land somewhere.
It's emotionally complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
this. I've felt that since I've started looking at your work and since our last podcast, and I've just been trying to sit with like, where do I fall in all this? And I don't know.
I've done that, dude. I remember when I first looked up the definition of naturalization from Title 8, Section 1101, subsection 823. It took me, dude, I was like walking around like how you looked last time when we were doing the show. I was walking around like that for like 60 days.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to ride my motorcycle that much because I was like, it seems a little risky. I'm not on this planet. It's just so, it was just like, it just like, it couldn't be. And how could it be? And I just can't, it has to be some secret aspect to this. And how could it, and it's just like, this just can't even, it's just so simple. It's so simple that it's unbelievable. It can't be believed. It's emotionally complicated. Yeah. And I've gone through that and I've just kind of embraced it. Like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You just let it sit and it just kind of brews in your mind for 30, 60, 90 days. What else are you going to do? You know what I mean? I walk around and I just think about it all day long. And I just think about how and why and how could it be? And could there be another definition for one of the words? Or is there something that I'm missing? Or is there something that this? And like looking around and looking at forms and thinking back in my life and all these different things and being like, does it plug into my life? And did I just not know what was going on? And yeah, and I just felt like, when I started going down these roads, I was presented with a point where I had to make a decision where if I want to keep the life I have to basically kill everything and burn it all and bury it, everything. And that just wasn't going to happen. Absolutely not. People deserve to know the truth. I see this country and a lot of countries going south fast. And I think of like 1984, like an Orwellian nightmare. And like the other night I was having dinner with like Luke Story and all those guys. And one of the guys that were there, we had a big circle and they were asking me all these different questions. And one of the guys asked me like, if you had kids, would that change the way that you're doing all this? Cause like, obviously the question I get asked the most is, are you scared of being killed or something like that? Right. And, I feel like the answer is no. It's a very easy thing to answer a question like that when you don't have children. It's like saying, would you be nervous if you were doing public speaking? Oh no, man, bro, check me out. I'm like the buffest, And then like, there it is. There's the audience. There's the stairs. Welcome, Brandon Joe Williams. Clap, clap, clap. And you have to walk up the stairs. It's a different situation. It's not theoretical anymore. Mm-hmm. So the thing is that I just thought in my head, I was like, if I had children, I wouldn't want them to live in an Orwellian nightmare. And I just don't see that we have a whole lot of runway left. And I feel that my answer wasn't super clear at that time. And I was thinking about it a lot over a few days. And then I messaged the guy and I said, if I had children, I'd probably be going even harder, which is like almost incomprehensible because I go so hard. I'd probably be going even harder, honestly, just because it just has to be done. I just feel like at this point, I don't feel like I'm like burdened with an obligation. I feel like I've been gifted a duty by God, and it's not like a religious thing. I'm not like a Jesus guy. I'm not like any of those things. I just feel like for whatever reason, I've found myself in a situation where I am able to grasp and reorganize information that everyone wants that no one seems to be able to really organize very well. So, it's a special talent, I guess. And I just put that talent to use, and then I just give it away for free because I just couldn't charge for it. It was just one of those things where even though it's like I had spent probably 20 or 30 grand in my own research, and I probably put, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours into all the research, but I don't know. I just couldn't, like, everyone needed this information and they need it fucking now. Like, and if you're broke and you're homeless, it doesn't matter. Like, you'll get a Obama phone and watch my videos on your Obama phone in the park or something. I don't know. Like, I just don't, and then come full circle. And it's so funny because like whenever I talk to like girls that are like, really into what I'm doing, they always tell me the same thing. They say, what you're doing is really amazing, but the fact that you do it for free just drives me crazy. And it literally just drives them like insane. It's the fact that it's free. And I wasn't never intending that. It's sort of like, it's karmatic. You know what I mean? It's like, I've been in business. I've built businesses. I always thought, what's free is not valued. And I thought the same thing. And I thought the same thing even when I made them, but I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't charge. I just felt like it just wasn't that kind of a thing. It was a special thing that just like, I knew I'd figure it out someplace else or do something else or whatever. And I just wanted to give it away for free. I wanted it to be free. And, karmatically, all the love and all the appreciation and all the opportunities and coming out here and getting on all these huge shows all at the same time. I just did Crow 777, like literally just before I came to Austin. So like what I'm doing is about ready to explode into like, I'm like literally gonna be like, like my face is gonna like seriously. So, and I see it coming. It's coming this summer for sure. There's like no question about it. And I've got the litigation and I'm making tons of money with the litigation and I've got all the infinite money stuff. We're doing litigation on that. So I'm going to get a black card from Amex that I'm never going to have to pay. And I'll just live off of it. Private jets, I can just swipe a black card. It's never something I'm going to have to do anything with. I don't even get a bill. So, it's like the karma of it. I didn't know that at the beginning. I was like, oh, Brandon, you're going to have infinite money. And like, I didn't know that. I'm like, I just knew that if I walked, I just knew that it would just sort itself out. And I just kept my bills low and I kept my expenses super low. I think everything out the door with going out as much as I want and doing anything I want is probably $4,000 or $5,000 a month most of the time. Car's paid off. I have a 2009 Shelby GT500 with like tons and tons of modifications. So it's like, it's not like a Lamborghini or something like that. And then I bought a brand new Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS. Did a little bit of work to it, a little bit of custom work to it that I wanted to do. And that's it. I mean, I just rent and going out and my stuff's all paid off and I don't have any craziness. I don't have any additional properties or anything like that. So I was making $100,000 a year, like, and paying taxes like 2 or 3 years ago. And I went from that to like, but it's, I knew something was going to happen. I just didn't think it would be freaking literally infinite money. That was not part of the equation at all.
well, you've employed something that I see coming up a lot for a lot of really successful people, and they give away most of their most valuable shit for free.
Yeah.
And then other opportunities come out of that they couldn't necessarily envision, or maybe they did envision it, but they just know that you've got to give people value. Give them as much as they can take. And then on the back end, you can litigate for someone and you can have these different things that can create big wealth in the end. It's not why you started doing it in September of 21 or July of 22. But these things now start to come to the forefront, and now I'm sure you can orient around what that could look like. And you pulled on a few things there that I want to go a little deeper on. Let's talk about infinite money again. I think we probably touched on it a little bit earlier, but like let's really 101 this for what does that mean, and how will you be able to have the black card and not pay off, and what does that look like? Practically speaking.
So the term payment, if you look it up in the dictionary, in Black's Law Dictionary, it means to perform on a duty or obligation, right? So the thing is that we live in a world where there is no money. Money is gold and silver coins. What we have is currency or funds. If you look up money, it says does not embrace notes, bills of exchange, and if you look up currency and funds, it says it does embrace notes, bills of exchange, and evidences of debt. So legally, we don't have any money. Legally, what we have is currency or funds, right? So, and the thing is that even currency and funds is kind of tricky because currency and funds would include gold and silver coins. But we don't have any gold and silver coins. And in fact, there's sections of the United States Code that it's actually a felony to exchange. I'd say a misdemeanor or a felony to exchange gold and silver coins. I don't think anyone's ever going to get prosecuted for that, but there's a section. Yeah, there's a lot of goofiness on gold and silver coins. In 1933, they wanted to remove all the gold and silver coins, and they did through the Emergency Banking Act. And ever since then, it's been illegal and it's been super weird, and the government doesn't want to deal with the gold and silver coins. They don't want to. When you study about gold and silver coins, the United States Code, it's like a lot of it doesn't make any sense. It's kind of very weird, and you can tell it's a very emotional subject, whoever wrote all that stuff. And I think the reason why is because after the Federal Reserve kind of got in there in 1913, they wanted to disconnect the monetary system from money.
So that they could just control all of it.
Well, yeah, it comes down to the fact that they can print as much of it as they want. But basically what it is every time you sign any promissory note, you're basically not knowing it. You're gifting that value to them. And then they go and swap that value for Federal Reserve notes. And then they just give you back what you just manufactured at interest. You essentially abandon the original security. You don't abandon it. You release it without conditions.
So give us an example of what that would be like.
So like the mortgage on this house. If you read 12 USC 412, it says that it's called application for notes, right? And it says that if you want to write an application for Federal Reserve notes and you want to go to the Federal Reserve discount window, you need a collateral security. And you know from being in finance for so long, now that I know your background, we can get into some of that the banks want collateral, and they want, if they can get 6 times collateral on the loan, they'll go for it. They'll fight you to try to get as much collateral as they can. Because they're just a black hole of death, basically. But the thing is that nothing, including this house, should have been collateral on the mortgage. The original promissory note is the collateral security. And what's funny is that the original mortgage note, the value of that note when swapped at the window is the value of the maturity value of the note.
So let's say the note on this house was $3 million.
Yeah. Plus 5% interest for 30 years. And then they put on there the final number. And the reason why they put that final number on there is because that's the value of the note. So the note itself collateralized the loan plus a whole shitload more money.
Yeah. Meaning
if you really wanted to go in there and litigate for a long period of time, you could actually buy a $3 million home, get the whole thing for free, and be paid a big chunk of the interest that comes from the collateral security. So you can actually get paid for buying a house.
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit earlier, I think, with the car loans.
Now you're going to have to Rambo, Terminator, RoboCop your way to the end zone if you want to try to pull something like that off, which I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be, it's going to be like violent M60 machine gun.
What is the risk for someone in my position if I wanted to go down that path?
A lot of people tell me that they don't want to litigate. They don't want to get involved in all that. They don't want to do that. I consider litigation to be a masculine rite of passage.
How so?
Well, women, as they get a little older, they have their rite of passage, which is when they start getting their period and they run to their mother and they say, what the hell is going on? And they're scared and excited.
Or they go to my wife and she teaches puberty classes and teaches them what it's all about in a beautiful way.
That's amazing. We don't have that.
Yeah.
In the West, we don't have that.
We really don't.
We have nothing. There's really
college is like our rite of passage.
Get a job or something, or like, and if there was one, it's not really very clear. And you talk to a lot of guys who fight. You talk to a lot of boxers, jiu-jitsu, all these kind of guys. They have a much better grounding in their masculinity because their rite of passage is these fights, these battles, and it's fascinating. Martial arts or fighting or UFC or boxing. Litigation is war. Litigation is full-blown Genghis Khan, dead bodies warfare. But it's not a warfare of force per se. It is, but
not physical.
It's more of a warfare of minds and definitions and writing and persuasion and seduction. It's war of, it's like gentleman's war, even though it's not very gentlemanly, but I don't really know how else to describe it. And it's like, for guys like me that don't want to really become a boxer or a fighter, it's the ultimate second option for anyone who's nerdy or more in their head or more video game oriented or more, just dorky or whatever you want to say, like non-sports. I was never into sports. I was never into any of that. I mean, it was I was in a metal band and I loved motorcycles and fast cars, and that was always my big thing. And computers, I was a computer nerd for most of my life, especially in my teenage years, like big time computer nerd. Like the whole town knew that if they had a computer problem, they'd call me.
How has that served you in your exploration into this world?
I mean, I have a very simple setup at home. I have like my camera and I have like my mic and people are always really impressed by how good it sounds and how clean everything looks and everything. And I build all my own computers. Like I could wire all this up, I could do, I'm a bit of a freak when it comes to a lot of stuff. I like to tweak everything personally. I like to set everything up in a special way. I like to have everything. I like everything to be very raw, but I like it to be like very loud and very clear and very easy to actually hear it. Just like the simplicity of just being able to clearly hear the voice and the tonality and the elocution and the blah 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 whatever. So I mean, but in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's really just I grew up as a computer nerd and a video game nerd. And I think that a lot of people, especially like my parents, and I think like older generations, they think that video games are a waste of time, but it's this like constant problem solution, like literally like constant, like problem solution, like sometimes thousands and thousands of them an hour or even
you ever
a
play
minute.
Geometry Dash?
No.
My son, yeah. It's just fucking thousands of reps.
Yeah. And it's just like, and men, I do a lot with like male, female stuff and like seduction and like what it means to be a man and walk the earth as a man. And I'm a member of the Amirati, which is part of the Ars Amirata, which is a male fraternity based off the book, The Alabaster Girl by Zan Perian, which is all about what it means to be a man and masculinity and masculine energy and the rite of passage and all this kind of stuff. Right. And, I totally spaced out as to
litigation is a rite of passage.
Yeah. So litigation is a rite of passage, and it's a masculine rite of passage. And as a man, we tend to be way less emotional because we're not allowed to be emotional because we're men. And if we do that, then we're gay or whatever. So instead of the emotions, we end up developing our logical mind to a vast degree because we are basically trained our whole lives that we're not really allowed to venture into the emotional kingdom. The doors are shut and locked, and there are landmine signs all around. And we think that if we go in there, we're going to die. So the thing is that, the cool thing about litigation is I feel like it's the ultimate masculine energy. It's just raw logic and like power and force and might. And it's just so, it's beautiful to me. I don't think there's hardly anybody on the planet that finds litigation to be something beautiful, but the writing and the writing style and the way that you have to persuade, it's like sales and poetry and writing and force and warfare and military and death, like all combined into one activity. And I think it's amazing. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I mean, I would do it. If I had a black card, I'd still be doing litigation just for fun.
What can you share about this most kind of recent case with the mortgage company?
It's all completely public. Every single thing that gets filed into all the cases, if you go on Pacer, pacer.uscourts.gov, I believe it is, you can sign up for free, and then you can type in the case number or my client's names or my name,
and you can pull up the cases, and you can literally go to query, and you can do a docket query, and it'll pull up a thing. It looks like it's 1989, the website, right? But it'll pull up a thing, and it'll have these little boxes, and it'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all clickable. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's every single filing into the case. They could file in like a word count thing, which is like a local rule. It'll be there, and you can download it. You can download memorandums, affidavits, the original complaint, anything the judge puts in, the record. I mean, literally anything that gets put in at all. Now, if you want to like transcripts from like a live teleconference, I don't really know if you'd be able to get that.
Mm-hmm.
You probably would, actually. There's a fee associated with that. You would call in and say, I need transcripts for this case number, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you'd need to be a party. I think you'd just pay it and you could still get it. It's literally all public. It's like a UFC octagon.
Interesting.
Literally.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You can type in anyone. Like a lot of people say like, oh, Wesley Snipes and all this. You can go on Pacer right now, type in Wesley Snipes, pull up his case, and you can go through every single document right now for 10 cents a page.
How long ago did litigation start on this case?
Well, I have 4 cases running now, and I have several in the works. One client who I'm probably going to be onboarding here pretty soon has got like 9 cases just himself. And I've got several that I'm wanting to do for myself. The DMV is going to be a lot of fun. That's one of my next ones. I can't wait for that. That's going to be.
What's that look like?
Oh, dude. Enticement into slavery, forced labor, involuntary servitude. Oh yeah, I'm going to try to get the DOJ involved. I'd love to just start putting people in prison. Oh yeah, the whole 9 yards, all the way. The DMV has a special dark place in my heart.
How are they doing this? These different things.
Well,
because on the surface, I can't connect those dots. So I'm curious what that actually looks like.
A driver's license is literally the slave badge of the entire human race. It is literally I think the Jews wore a star during the Holocaust. The driver's license is the star for our Holocaust. The driver's license, essentially what they do is they make you sign that you're a resident of state of Texas, which is a private corporation located in the District of Columbia. And you never needed a license to travel. You never needed a license to transport your body. Why would you need a corporation's approval to transport your body? That's insane. That's actually psychosis.
This was one of the very first things I heard about like 3-4 years ago when I started to kind of kick this around a little bit. So
the thing is that you sign this driver's license and they don't tell you that the driver's license is now a contract and it legally moves you into the District of Columbia. And because you're in the District of Columbia, now you don't have the right to travel. You literally cut your own dick off by getting a driver's license.
Because you don't have one.
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
I gave it up. I went in and turned it in. Said, I don't want this. Kill it. And I need evidence that's done.
So if you drive a vehicle and you get pulled over for whatever, what does that process look like?
So I have a private motor carrier DOT number, which is like basically at the federal level rather than the state level. And I've never been pulled over because you get to a certain point with all this information and you just cease to exist spiritually to police officers. I'm going like 120, 140, 160 on a motorcycle. And it's like cops have seen me and they just don't even. And you say like, oh, that's just California. Do it. I do it on my car. I do whatever I want. And they just don't see me. It's just like, I don't exist. I have not got pulled over, but if I did, I'd say, I have a federal registration. Because the thing is that I'm not a resident of state of California or state of Texas or state of Utah. So I actually don't qualify for a driver's license because you have to confer nationality of a state upon yourself after birth by any means whatsoever, which means naturalize. You have to naturalize into the District of Columbia to get a driver's license. I don't live in the District of Columbia. I don't live in state of California. I don't live in state of Texas. I don't resident there. I don't domicile there. So you can't get a driver's license unless you're a resident of state of Texas, of which I am not. So it'd be perjury for me to get a driver's license. Now, I didn't know that when I had one.
Yeah.
So the thing is that perjury can only be perjury if it's willful. So if you don't know, it's not perjury. But as soon as you do know, now it's perjury. So the thing is, I can actually go to prison if I had a driver's license, which is hilarious. It's like total inverse of everything, right? It's like total opposite. So if I went and got a driver's license, I would actually be committing perjury, and I can go to prison for, up to 1 year.
So what?
Well, sort of. It's a little bit more complicated than that, because naturalization is the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So technically, just by saying that I live in the state of Texas, I actually technically live in the state of Texas now, because whatever you say you live there. So it's kind of weird. It's not really perjury, because you actually move there by saying you're there in law. But if you didn't know that's how it works, then let's say like you were living in Texas and you like wanted some benefits, you like said that you live in Utah to like get some benefit. Like, for example, like some guys, especially in California, they don't want to have smog. So they plate their vehicle like out of state. And then there's like laws that say like, you can get in trouble for doing that after like, you have like 30 days or 45 days after coming to California to switch your stuff over. That's all BS. But the thing is that if you thought that was all true, then you could be hit with perjury because you wouldn't know better. But the way it really works is you literally just live wherever you say you live, and you can say you live in as many places as you want. And technically, you just live in all those places. It's naturalization from 8 USC 1101 subsection A23. So, it's fascinating. But even the courts and stuff don't know this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, who actually knows this? And I guess they come to find out about it when there's litigation, and then they have to look at all these articles.
Yep.
How surprised have like the mortgage company attorneys been?
Well,
have they, to your knowledge, have they had any experience with this before?
Not like this. Yes, but not like this. This is like, my shit's like solid. Like they've probably never seen anything so solid in their life.
So walk us through like just a little bit of what this process looks like or has looked like so far.
There's something called a blank endorsement, which is when a negotiable instrument, when you're figuring out the negotiation of a negotiable instrument, which means the transferability.
So when I go to sign my mortgage, everybody signs a blank endorsement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus
a blank endorsement is an endorsement that does not state a payee.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, you write me a check, right? And let's say on the check it says "pay to the order of bearer." That's essentially sort of what you're doing when you do a blank endorsement. Anyone can grab it. You could leave it on the table, and it's literally just up for grabs. That's a blank endorsement, like a blank check.
So I sign the blank endorsement, and the bank says, "Thank you very much." Basically.
So I like to use the word, it's an abandoned security, but it's not really abandoned because you've actually negotiated it without conditions. So you didn't really abandon it. You just released it to the wild. And anybody who would like to grab onto it you're like, it's like having a child and then you give the child up for adoption. You don't want it. You can't deal with it. So it's like, is it abandoned? It's not really the best word to use because it's like, you're not really abandoning it. You're releasing it and walking away without any strings attached or conditions attached to it at all whatsoever. You're bringing it into existence and then just leaving it there. And who's the first person who can get their hands on it? The banking institution that help you make it. Mm-hmm. They're the first ones, if they want it, they're the first ones that once it's released, if they want it, they grab it. No one else can grab it before they do because they're the ones literally transacting the deal. So what they do is they grab it and they put a special endorsement on it immediately. As soon as you hand it to them and you've done the blank endorsement, boom, special endorsement on it, right? They claim it's unclaimed, payable to the bearer. Now they say, nope, not anymore. We are ending negotiation. We're restricting negotiation of this instrument. We're doing a special endorsement and now it's payable to us.
And would you say that most people in that seat who stamp it without recourse don't understand that that's what's going on? They just know that that's part of the process?
I would assume they have no idea.
So if I were to sign it a different way, which would be In order for me to sign it as a special endorsement versus a blank endorsement as the guy who bought the house.
Well, the way we're doing it with the lawsuits is, you were never told any of this information at the beginning. So we're going down the fraud lane, because if you look at UCC Article 3, which is the entire Bible for negotiable instruments, there are other Bibles and there's other things. And some people are going to say, oh, certain states have not fully adopted the UCC. Anyways, whether you like it or not, in some way or another, it may not be called the UCC, but it's the same stuff. UCC 3 is the Bible as far as I'm concerned. I read all of UCC 3 and it just totally clarified everything, and everything operates right out of UCC 3, even though they may not adopt the UCC. There's local laws that aren't labeled UCC. It's just UCC 3, but not labeled UCC 3. Literally, it's like a joke. In UCC 3, it's very, very clear in terms of different types of endorsements and the different things that you can and cannot do. UCC 3-104 even says that UCC 3 is all about negotiable instruments and does not have anything to do with money. They literally say that verbatim right in UCC 3-104, which is hilarious. They're like, this has nothing to do with money. They say it right there. It's only negotiable instruments. So when you're the signer or the endorser, I think it's endorser. When you're the endorser, you are the one who writes the negotiation. You can negotiate this way, you can negotiate that way, which just means transferability. A restrictive endorsement means that it restricts the way it can be negotiated. A special endorsement is one that states the payee. You have qualified endorsement. You have a conditional endorsement. You don't really see those in UCC 3, but if you look up endorsements in Black's Law Dictionary, there's a whole bunch of different kinds that you don't see in UCC 3. UCC 3 has blank endorsement, special endorsement, and this other one called like an amalgamous something endorsement, which I don't even really. It was like a very weird, very specific type of endorsement. I didn't really study it too much because it's just kind of weird. The qualified endorsement, the conditional endorsement, and there's some other endorsements. Those styles are not necessarily located in UCC 3, which is interesting because it's like, well, could you use those styles? I think almost definitely you could use those styles. I don't, because the special endorsement, it covers everything I could ever want. I mean, it's infinite money, so why would I want anything more than that? It's as good as it gets. Anything you want, you sign, and it's immediately yours. Mansions, planes, whatever you want, you sign, and it's yours. Boom. And you get paid for buying it. So the thing is how could it get any better than that? I don't need to use all those other kinds of endorsements. And plus, UCC 3, Article 3, that's what everyone follows, and that's what everyone talks about. So if it's going to get me to the end zone and it's cleaner for them and it's more applicable for them and it's more, whatever, then I'll just stick with what's in UCC 3. And like, for example, UCC 9, which is talking about like secured parties and that kind of thing, is, in my opinion, extremely difficult to read. Almost literally impossible. I have struggled to even get through the definition section. I literally just go through it, almost die every time. And I've never really gotten past the definitions. It's just so difficult. UCC 3 is not like that. UCC 3 is an absolute mindfuck. If you think a lot of the things that I'm talking about are a mindfuck, it's like the Bible of mindfucks for finances. So like I found myself reading it and having to like stop and like emotionally process information for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. But in terms of the actual difficulty, especially if you're used to finances, it's really not that hard. And it's not very much either. UCC 3 is not that big. UCC 9 is like going to war. UCC 3 is like a semi-difficult camping trip. It's like actually kind of enjoyable. So, yeah.
So you come at them with, this is fraud from the
terms and conditions.
Okay.
So it's fraud through omission of terms and conditions.
Okay.
So there was no meeting of the minds because the terms and conditions were extremely unclear. It's unspoken entirely. There's no information anywhere about the original collateral security and the instrument and the way that it's endorsed and how it's released. And they basically entice you through omission into doing a blank endorsement. And one of the things that we need to figure out is if there's a fiduciary responsibility by the bank, that's a massive felony. Just that one alone. I have so many felonies, but there's some things that we're still trying to figure out. Like if the banking institution actually does have a fiduciary responsibility, then they're in real trouble, because what they're doing is they're shanghaiing the beneficiaries big time. It's like they're literally fleecing them. They're stealing everything. And just one charge, just like transportation of stolen negotiable instruments, just one charge is 25 years in prison. And I've got like 12 charges. And they're almost all 20 to 25 years in prison for each charge. And one of them, it's like manufacturing of negotiable instruments illegally, or illegal negotiation of negotiable instruments. It's like 20 to 25 years in prison for each felony. And technically every single credit transaction would fit a felony on that. So in 1 month, if you did 80 transactions on your credit card, it'd be 80 felonies.
I don't want to, I'm trying to follow what thread I'm on right now, because the credit card just threw me a little bit.
So basically the way we were doing it, it's really simple. It's either everyone's going to prison forever, or you can give me infinite money. It's up to you. I give them the option because I'm just such a benevolent soul.
And you think this is gonna take a bit of time to get through?
Oh, dude, this is like full Rambo.
Yeah,
like full, like Terminator 5, full.
The car loans, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah, just because the stakes are lower, or
well, the lowest stakes is unsecured. Student loans, like that.
Oh yeah.
Old hospital bills. Oh Lord, you don't even need to litigate for some of that stuff. Oh, tax bills are actually the lowest.
Oh, you said that
you
because
never need to
the IRS actually follows that.
$40 million in tax liability. Oh, that's the easiest thing in the world. You
What's
just
that?
write a few things on the bill and send it in and make sure they sign for it. So in law, in the Bill of Exchange Act, the definition of the term accepted means it's accepted by delivery. So when you have evidence that it was delivered, which means you make them sign for it, they've technically in law accepted the payment, the negotiable instrument. Once they accept it, they can't deny it. And if they try to deny it, as per UCC 3-603 subsection B, if they deny it, so if I send you a $63,000 negotiable instrument that's released, with a special endorsement, once you sign for it, you've accepted it. Once you've accepted it, if you deny that payment, then whatever amount the payment was for is still, even though you've rejected it, it's still deducted off of what I owe you.
Yeah.
You can reject the payment, but you're the one who gets fucked, not me. So all these banks and stuff, they're going like, we don't accept this kind of payment. That letter alone is all the evidence you win to win in court. You've already won. When they say we don't accept that kind of payment, which is always what they do, the little form letters, you've already won. You're already the victor. Like you already are on the number one, and you've got your thing, and you've got your thing, and you're like popping champagne, like you've already won.
All right, so I get my tax returns from my accountant. It says I owe, let's just say I owe $500,000.
Okay.
What's the process of sending that into the IRS where they, obviously registered and all that, but like, what does it actually look like? Do I sign? How
This is how you do it. You would get a bill. So what is a bill?
It's a negotiable instrument.
Yeah, but what is bill short for? What's the full term?
Bill of sale?
Of exchange.
Exchange, damn it.
Bill of exchange.
That's in my notes somewhere.
So a bill of exchange is a negotiable instrument. There's only two types of negotiable instruments. You remember what they are?
Yeah, and a promissory note.
Bingo. And what's the short version of a promissory note?
A note.
Bingo. So you got a bill and a note, promissory note and bill of exchange. And then if you were to go even farther and you were to define what those are, you have the bill of exchange, which is an unconditional order to pay. And you have the promissory note, which is an unconditional promise to pay. That's going even deeper in terms of what they really mean, right? So you look at a document and you say, is this an unconditional promise to pay or an unconditional order to pay in any way, shape, or form at all, right? And you look at the document and it says, pay blah, blah, blah by this date, which is what the IRS was going to send you. And it's going to look very intense, right? That's just in the intense ones, which is great. It's very unconditional. It's very much an order to pay. So it's a bill of exchange. Bill of exchange is the same value as a promissory note. So it's literally when they send you that bill of exchange, it's like they sent you a huge bundle of Federal Reserve notes all in like a briefcase. Like imagine the IRS just sent you $500,000 in a briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is, that bill of exchange.
But what if I don't get a bill from the IRS?
You request one, which is insane, but you want a bill. Please send me a bill.
Okay.
Please send me a bill. I want a bill. You don't need to say bill of exchange. You just say bill. It means the same thing. They don't know. Oh, yes, sir. No problem. We'll send you a bill, which is an unconditional order to pay. You get the unconditional order to pay and you sign it you endorse it, and you it's an instrument. It's an instrument that has been negotiated. It's been transferred to you. And now you're going to write negotiation instructions and conditions on it, which is called an endorsement or a special endorsement, without recourse, paid to the order of the taxpayer's name, which is your name in all capital letters. Definition of taxpayer from Title 26, Section 7701, subsection A14 is any person who is subject to any internal revenue tax. So you are not a taxpayer. The ens legis is the taxpayer.
And break that down for people.
Well, the all caps name, the public corporation, the ens legis that was created like 14 or so days after you were born, when your birth certificate was processed at the Department of Health and Human Services, that thing is the taxpayer, because the definition of the word person includes an individual, a trust, estate, partnership, company, corporation, all the entities, right? So it's a person, and that person is the taxpayer. You're just the representative on behalf of that taxpayer. You speak on behalf of that taxpayer because the taxpayer cannot speak or write, because it's an entity. It's an ens legis, which means a creature of the law. It's actually in the definition of ens legis. It says that the term is used contrast to a natural person. So you have a natural person, and then you have the creature of the law. And it says right in the definition of ens legis, deriving its whole existence entirely and only from the law. So I can pull it up here and read it exact. That way I'm not just paraphrasing. But the ens legis is the taxpayer, and you're just writing these instructions, and you're writing these special endorsements and everything on behalf of the taxpayer, because the taxpayer can't write. Definition of ens legis is a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person, applied to corporations considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law. So if you have a corporation that you've opened, that's also an ens legis.
Okay.
Or trusts, if trusts are statutory, meaning if they were open through the government or in some corporate manner, that would be an ens legis. Private trusts that are open with you and your friends, and they're like original trusts, like the old like 1,000-year-old technology of trust, where you don't go to the government for anything. You just open it up as it's a private contractual agreement for the trustee to handle and manage assets on behalf of the beneficiary. It's just a private deal. That is totally different. That wouldn't be a person necessarily. The IRS and stuff may argue with that, but the term person would only apply in terms of trusts, only apply to statutory trusts that are underneath the legal system or law or born out of the District of Columbia. So technically, the only thing that wouldn't really be a person would be a private irrevocable trust. But that gets a little bit interesting too, because when you get an EIN number, I believe they actually make a whole statutory trust thing. I don't really know what they do, but I think they kind of convert it. They like clone it into a person on their end. I don't really know exactly how that all works. It doesn't really matter. Honestly, I don't really think it's all that important. But you have all these persons, you have estates, statutory trusts, companies, corporations, partnerships, and then also individuals. But what's an individual? It's also kind of like a weird conversation. I think when they say individual, they're referring to the all caps ens legis.
Okay.
When I hear the word individual, that's pretty much at this point what I think the definition of that means. It's not the natural person.
Well, all right. Tell me this. Just try to land it for people. What is hypothetically speaking, if you were to be giving someone advice, what would a first step to start to pop out of this system, this enslavement?
I mean, you could do a lot of things. I think the driver's license and stuff is a bit more advanced because you're going to be dealing with police and it could get a little hairy.
Can't rent a car, stuff like that.
Can't rent a car. Yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, I'll probably figure out a way at some point, but as of right now, it's through the normal channels. It's more difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turo and Hertz and that kind of thing, right? So, shockingly, one of the easiest things to do is the revocation of election to be treated as a U.S. resident for the purposes of determining your income tax liability. Basically, unsubscribing to income tax. That's pretty much the easiest thing. I mean, we're talking 5 minutes of your time, and it's always processed without even literally a phone call, a text, not a peep. They don't have questions.
What's that process look like?
You're just cleaning up naturalization. You're cleaning up. I have a document on my website on the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition page on my website, and it's free. It's a revocation of election document or affidavit, and you could just. I think people should learn the basics and make sure they understand how it works and what they're doing, and you can do that through my free course and a lot of my free material and a lot of the shows that I go on and that kind of thing. But it's not that complicated. And when you really at least understand it, you can just download my free file that I give away for free, swap out all the information in there, just the name and your address and the local IRS office, which takes you 5 minutes, and you can go and get it notarized and you can mail it in, certified mail to your local IRS, office. And then also the commissioner, very, very easy. And literally not low risk, zero risk, zero. There's nothing. There's no like approval process. There's no like, they don't approve anything.
How did we opt into that relationship in the beginning? Was
a W-9 usually, W-9 tax form. Because the W-9 tax form, it says in the certification section, I think it's section 2, and then I think it's like subsection 2 or 3 from there. It says I certify under penalty of perjury that, and then I think it's like number 2 or number 3. It says I am a U.S. citizen or other U.S. person, and then literally right where you sign, if you look at it, it says signature of U.S. person, and it has a little arrow pointing right to where you actually physically sign. So what happened is you naturalized when you did that, because the definition of naturalization is the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So when you signed the W-9, you signed to the fact that you live in the District of Columbia. And if you had never done that previously, you just naturalized, which in Title 26 in the Internal Revenue Code, they don't say the word naturalize. They say the word election. It means the same thing. Naturalize in Title 8 and election in Title 26 means the same thing.
And so then you need to, I believe I remember seeing that you need to sign a new W-2, a special W-2, a W-9, I mean.
You can do for the ens legis of your name in all capital letters, you would use a W-8-BEN. For private irrevocable trusts and other like companies, organizations, estates, you would use what's called a W-8-EXP.
Okay. So when you go in and fill out the 5-minute document, that pulls you out of the W-9 you signed originally.
Well, if you have an employer and there's a withholding agent and they're actually withholding income, income's kind of a stupid word. It's like undefinable, but they're withholding negotiable instruments being transferred to you. If you have an employer, quite a bit more hairy because the payroll company is going to freak out and they're going to get lawyers involved and the whole place is going to burst into flames. I always say it's like throwing a hand grenade into treasury or HR or payroll. Like literally like pulling a pin and throwing a fucking hand grenade in there. That's basically what's going to happen.
So if you don't have an employer, it's a much easier.
Oh. If you don't have an employer, it's literally like have a cigarette with your coffee, write up a couple things, mail it in, and once they sign for it, it's accepted and it's done. It's that easy. They will never call you. They will never ask anything of you. They will never need any verification. Nothing. It's literally as easy. It's actually easier than unsubscribing from Netflix.
I think that's a good place to wrap. I think we covered, we did what I wanted to today. We got deeper on some areas. We didn't get too deep where we potentially lose me or others.
And the last one, did we go too far on the last one?
No, I think that was great to see the breadth and the depth of where we can go with it. And it's like this one like landed a little bit more. And I really loved getting to know more about your personal journey, because I think it could be easy to separate the two for people listening. And it's like, look,
almost everyone goes through it. Everyone doing what I'm doing, everyone interested in what I'm doing, there's no return. It's a one-way street in a good way. It's sort of like the Matrix, it's sort of like that one dude, I forget his name, who makes a deal with Agent Smith to like screw everyone over. And he's like, I just want to go back to putting meat in my mouth and thinking that it's a fillet and just like, I'm done, With this information, I mean, there's really not, you really don't even have that option. I mean, once it starts to come on your radar, it's sort of like, it's a transformation that there is no reversing really. And it's in a good way. But the problem is once you start the transformation, the problem is that all of the relationships in your life are going to go through some kind of massive shift. Whereas new people are going to flood into your life. A lot of people are going to exit your life, and the relationships that you have, a lot of marriages go really heavy on the rocks, really heavy, like crazy, getting into this information. The amount of times and the amount of messages I've gotten where it's the wife and she's trying like hell to get the husband on board, and it's just a fucking mess and it's destroying their marriage, or vice versa. It's the husband. It's actually the wife more often, actually. But if it's the husband as well, and he's trying to get his wife on board, it tears apart marriages and relationships. But the thing is that you don't realize it in that moment because you're going through so much emotional pain, but it's a relationship that probably you've outgrown. And I know that's very bold to state, and it's very generic, and it doesn't apply to everyone, but in general, I would say, for everyone out there, you will go through this. And the thing is that it's because you're outgrowing. You probably already had outgrown. It's just this information is so incendiary that like anything that you probably outgrow, but you're kind of like too lazy to do anything about it, it's just going to like literally set all that shit on fire.
That makes sense. Yeah. And it is, you're definitely being red pilled with this one. And it's cool. Some will choose to be like, yeah, that's not for me. Some people will tread lightly, some people will be bold, and it's like whatever kind of floats your boat and wherever you're at in your journey. What are the different resources here? We've got Williams & Williams Law Firm, onestupidfuck.com.
That's the main one.
Okay, that's the main one. Everything can flow through there. You've got your free course
there.
on there.
All the social media links are there. The State National Theory, the free contract killer course, all the free resources on my resources page, and then my own personal documents that I've created and give away for free. That's on the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition page. There's other pages. There's the fan art and submissions page, which is like love letters and all this stuff, and like wins and successes and all this, just endless amounts of people doing things and seeing success, just like literally just, I don't know, like hundreds of pages of just successes, really. People holding up their car titles that they got for discharging their car. All sorts of good stuff. And The free course is on there. There's a link to Williams and Williams on onestupidfuck.com. So it's literally like the one-stop shop.
Perfect.
And now I have a store, and now I have a flag. I just released our flag. I hired the same designer who did all the logos, and we did a whole flag, and it's this really cute like beach, and it's all these little pickles people, and they're like riding bicycles and playing volleyball, and there's like a little DJ, and there's like a plane, and there's like a pickle guy driving the plane, because that's so when I released the free contract killer course, there's a few times in the course where I say, look, if you don't understand this, it's okay. Just go down to the farmer's market, get yourself the fattest, girthiest fucking cucumber you can possibly find, and jam that fucking thing straight up your ass. Fuck you. Don't call me. I don't care. There's like 3.
I have read versions of that.
There's like 3 different times when I say that in the course, and there's some other things.
I love when you're like, you want to fucking text me about this and that? I don't fucking care.
Yeah. So what happened was when I released the free contract killer course, for whatever reason, I didn't know. There's a few things that I do during the course. Like one of the things I do during the course is talk about how lawyers are officers of the court, and they're sucking all the dicks in the courtroom, and they're like circus seals, and I go, my headset falls off and I'm doing it. So there's like a bunch of really funny things throughout the course, but for whatever reason, everyone went ape shit about the cucumber in the ass.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. My people have spoken, and I just turned the whole fucking brand into cucumbers and pickles.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And that's what it is.
Okay. Well, hell yeah. You have to get one of those flags.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks for coming back. I know you've been riding on little sleep, and there's so much going on in your world right now, but we're grateful to have you here, and thanks for sharing just a fraction of what you're able to share.
Yeah, thank you. I love being here. I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.